What's going on, everyone? Sam here from Lake Pro Tackle. Y'all, Bassmaster Classic 2025 is coming to this neck of the woods here. We are only about, I would say, 30 minutes from the launch site of the Classic on Lake Ray Roberts. If you're coming up Highway 35, we're not that far off the road there, so if you're either coming down from the northern states or wanting to come up to go watch the launch, please stop by. You'll have plenty of time to come here and then, of course, go to the Classic Expo. Now, Lake Ray Roberts is a very fun lake. It can be feast or famine at times. I'm going to be detailing kind of my top 5 picks for the winner of the Bassmaster Classic for 2025. We're going to go over a couple of the anglers, kind of talk about the fishing generally in that March time period. So if you don't know, the Bassmaster Classic is going to be here March 21st through the 23rd. The anglers are going to get a couple days of practice. Typically, Ray Roberts in March, especially all the way into April, generally a pre-spawn lake. A lot of the lakes around here, like Lake Louisville, which is, only a few miles south of Ray Roberts, and even a couple other Metroplex lakes, typically will spawn a lot earlier. Those fish around those lakes will spawn a lot earlier than Ray Roberts. So in the March time, they could be definitely pre-spawn. Some might be spawning in some areas, but I highly anticipate a very cold winter, and that's what we're seeing. So I'm guessing that these fish are going to be put into a little bit of a funk, as well as Ray Roberts is very unpredictable when it comes to water level. Last year, the water level was extremely high, very reminiscent of the 2021 Bassmaster Classic in June, which was just very high water, very different from how we thought it would fish, which is kind of when, the 2021 Classic was supposed to kind of be around the same time. But, Fort Worth is the host city over at the Dickies Arena there in the Fort Worth Convention Center, so make sure to go by there. And again, if you want to come up to the shop here, we greatly appreciate it. We've got a bunch of cool JDM tackle, swim baits, BFS, everything you need to have success out there on the water, as well as the worm bar. So if you want to come buy some plastic in bulk, definitely come do that. So guys, let's go ahead and kick it off. Lake Ray Roberts is 25,600 acres, and guys, there's a lot of water to cover. There's so many different types of cover. Of course, you got some grass, you got some trees, you've got house foundations, you've got brush piles. You've got so many different types of cover. Of course, Hank Cherry, who won it last year, won it off a few certain areas, flipping as well as throwing a jerk bait. So that was very reminiscent of kind of that spawn slash post spawn deal, which I think this one's going to be a little more pre-spawn to spawn, depending on if these anglers can find the correct cover and structure that the bass are sitting on. So one of the big keys that I looked out for in these picks is someone who can, number one, cover a lot of water in practice. There are so many different patterns that you can run during the pre-spawn and the spawn on Lake Ray Roberts. Like I said, there's so much cover, and these fish, they are very different from a lot of the normal Metroplex fish that I fish for, like on Lake Louisville. Typically, they're going to stay around a shallower area. Ray Roberts, these fish typically can go from 30 foot of water, or even suspended out in 40 foot of water, all the way up dirt shallow, no matter what time of the year. Now, depending on the winter, it might be a little different, take some of the shallow stuff out of play. But my second thing is, for the guys that can cover a lot of water, they have to have a lot of game planned and be able to make the on-the-water decisions, have a plan A, B, C, D, be able to be flexible and run around the lake, covering different wide ranges of different patterns, whether it's jerk baits, Demiki rigs, flipping trees, being able to get your bait in there and get those fish out. So the winner of this Bassmaster Classic is going to be, number one, extremely versatile, and number two, be able to fish with forward-facing sonar. These fish here in Texas, they get, these Florida strain and F1 strain bass, they get very conditioned to that cold water, and they suspend up. They do what they're doing out at like OH Ivy or JB Thomas. They just, when it gets cold, they just suspend, and they're just out cruising. So, we watched it happen at the Lake Fork event, as well as the Toledo Bend event, which were a little earlier in the year, but it's going to be very similar as we start moving up closer to the Oklahoma border here in Texas. So someone who can cover a lot of water, have a lot of different techniques in their back pocket, as well as utilize forward-facing sonar, not just in open water, but if it comes to that where they are spawning in certain pockets, utilizing perspective mode is going to be very, very beneficial as well. One of the keys as well that I was looking at is being able to find isolated structure, and that kind of just goes back to the covering water, having different options, whether it's brush or house foundations or anything like that. There are a couple docks on the lake, there's tires, there's just so many different things to look out for. One of the biggest things that hold a lot of big bass in the pre-spawn is going to be the pond dams, and there is a wide variety of pond dams all over the lake, from the east side to the west side. Now, historically, during the pre-spawn, the east side of the lake has been very, very productive, but most of your big fish come out of the west side on isolated cover, whether it be that mid-depth range around 6 to 12 foot of water, or a little bit deeper like the house foundations over in the west side of the lake. Typically, tree lines might come into play. I know they came into play at the last Bassmaster Classic in 2021. Steve Kennedy, as well as, I believe, Taku caught a few off those isolated tree lines as well. So, kicking it off, my number 5 pick for the winner of the Bassmaster Classic is going to Chris Zaldain. Now, he is the hometown hero. He is going to have a lot of weight on his shoulders going into the Bassmaster Classic. Being from Fort Worth, I know he's been out on the water quite a bit and has a lot of experience there. Now, Chris is getting better and better at utilizing forward-facing sonar, and I think he is kind of evolving to marry it in with his big bait techniques, which can definitely play in that pre-spawn time period. We saw it at Lake Fork with Matty Wong and a few other anglers throwing those big baits. It can definitely play, and those fish at Ray Roberts are not scared to chase out a big bait, especially brush pile and tree line fish. If you're not getting it hung up, you have a very high probability of catching big fish, as well as his proficiency with a big flutter spoon, anything like that. He is kind of my big wild card number 5 pick. Now, I'd love to see him win the thing, being from Texas here, but Chris Zaldain, that is number 5. Number 4, another great, and these are all pretty good pre-spawn anglers that are able to utilize their bass fishing knowledge as well as forward-facing sonar. Patrick Walters. He is known for fishing a jerkbait, very, very good pre-spawn and spawn angler. Back for a couple events ago at Lake Fork, amazing spawn angler. I know he can find a lot of offshore fish. He can utilize his forward-facing sonar, not just using it to target specific fish, but able to call them up with the bigger baits as we saw at Lake Murray in 2024. Able to throw the bigger style swim baits, as well as utilize many other, especially finesse techniques. So Patrick Walters, he actually got 10th place at the 2021 Bassmaster Classic, so I know he has some spots in the back of his mind, I'm sure, that he's thinking about, and he is number 4. Number 3, Takumi Ito. He is, of course, one of our favorite Japanese anglers to watch. Super, super delightful spirit to him. He is amazing at the forward-facing sonar. Number 1, typically, I believe the new rules go into effect where they get 1 transducer. I don't think that's going to stop him. He is very proficient at using it, utilizing it in a much faster way that not a lot of anglers are currently using it. A lot of them are still kind of staring at it. He is able to really scan over an area, throw out that high percentage bait, and catch the fish. Taku didn't finish amazing at the last Bassmaster Classic here. It was just a weird, funky time, and I think he was getting more and more into his rhythm after that. So Taku, he is a great pre-spawn angler. He has a lot of versatility to him when it comes to finesse fishing as well as power finesse fishing, which can be very beneficial at Lake Ray Roberts. The biggest key, I think, is him utilizing these techniques to his advantage, finding those specific covers. Like I said earlier, if he's able to find those with the side scan, down scan, forward-facing sonar in that practice and find those fish, he's probably one of my top picks for landing those key fish and getting on them. Number 2 for me, my number 2 choice is going to be Matt Airy. He finished up second at the last Bassmaster Classic at Ray Roberts. He is a great power fisherman, and I know he is getting some very, very good, help with the forward-facing sonar. Now, again, you know, the 2021 Classic was a power fishing deal. Of course, Hank Cherry did utilize it a little bit with the Stunna Vision 110 with the jerkbait. However, I know Matt is able to find the patterns within the patterns. He's a very well-versed angler. Overall, he is very, very high on any event. And Matt Airy, number 2 pick, I just feel comfortable picking him. When it comes to honorable mentions, I'm going to mention Easton Fothergill coming out of the Opens. He is extremely well versed in the forward-facing sonar, and I might as well even throw in Chris Johnston. He was 8th place at the 2021 Bassmaster Classic and AOY winner for 2024. So Chris Johnson, Easton Fothergill are my kind of wild card picks before we get into number 1, as well as Scott Martin I might throw in the mix there. I know Scott Martin has a little work to do with the forward-facing sonar, but when it comes to guys that just have that dialed and are able to pick out specific cover and find that little piece of information utilizing all their graphs, not just forward-facing sonar really, because I don't want to pigeonhole them that way. You know, Eastern Fothergill and Chris Johnston are amazing anglers, and I can't wait to see what they do at the Classic. You know, number 1 pick for Lake Ray Roberts for me, well-versed angler, can utilize electronics, is able to make the game time decisions. Justin Hamner, he won last year at up in Oklahoma with the jerkbait. It was a pre-spawn event, very, very cold weather. Those fish moved around a lot. He fished a wide variety of things. He fished the brush, he fished the bluff walls, he fished docks. He was able to find those fish and get them to react. And that is a number 1 key out at Lake Ray Roberts, is a lot of people like to fish slow. It is a very pawpaw lake. Carolina rigs, big jigs, sizing down to like smaller jigs even, just working really, really slow. However, if you are able to make those fish react with speed cranking, fast jerk baits, utilizing faster Demiki style techniques, as well as swim baits, you know, keying in on those fish's natural instincts, that is how I think the winner of the Classic is going to win in this pre-spawn. You know, again, we never know kind of how the weather's going to shape out, but I think Hamner has a lot of techniques in his back pocket. He doesn't, I don't think, has a lot of history out at Ray Roberts, but I know he does a lot of studying. I know he's out there, I mean, that full time during practice, making sure that he finds every single thing about the lake. So when it comes to shallow, deep events, Hamner is well-versed, and he is my number 1 pick for the Bassmaster Classic. You know, as we get closer and closer, I'm going to keep doing these. Maybe my list will change, but I'm going to make sure I'm updating y'all on any weather changes, as well as kind of what I'm hearing from the local guys out there. Right now, it is currently fishing very, very tough. I know they did stock a lot of not fingerling size, but they stocked a lot of juvenile fish in the lake. I think it was like 13,000 fish or something. You can look it up on the public stocking records. But, you know, I went out there kind of a month after they did it, a few weeks after they did it, and it was not hard to catch a bunch of 6 to 10 inchers. It was just, I mean, they were stacked everywhere in there. So I highly expect a very successful pre-spawn. You know, these fish are going to keep eating. Hopefully, I think their goal of stocking these fish was to just create a lot of keepers. That way, we have a lot of action for the tournament for the Bassmaster Classic. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you're in the area up in North Texas, stopping through, even if it's before the Bassmaster Classic, just please stop by. We'd love to have you, show you around, and show you some of the cool stuff we got here. So, thank you again for watching. We'll see you next time at Lake Pro Tackle. See you guys.